Hey, this is Matt once again. What about two other videos? Another paid request, this time for Jonathan. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, he wanted me to do a commentary on the film, which I just did, and then he wanted me to review the film, which I'm doing now. I'll upload them probably on the same day. So thank you, Jonathan, and everyone else out there for your generosity. I'm sorry if the commentary was a bit boring because Straw Dogs is a 2011 film that's a remake of the Sam Peckinpah 70s film starring Dustin Hoffman. And I believe Susan George was in it. That film took place in England. Here it takes place in, I think, Mississippi, somewhere in the South. And it follows the plot fairly closely from the original. James Marsden and Kate Bosworth, both who were in Superman Returns, they are a couple. James Marsden's a screenwriter, while Dustin Hoffman was a mathematician in the original. And they go back to his wife's hometown in the South. And like I say, he's a screenwriter. She was an actress on the show that he wrote for. And then when they get back in the town, they're dealing with the locals. And they're going to be our bad guys, the old yokels locals. You have Alexander Skarsgård, who was in Godzilla vs. Kong. He was in the Northman. He's been in quite a few other films. You have James Woods as the coach. James Woods is a favorite actor of mine from Videodrome, Any Given Sunday, Cop, The Hard Way, John Carpenter's Vampires, True Believer. Love James Woods. He plays a very... I mean, maybe took it for the paycheck, but I've never seen the guy phone in his performance. And he brought some nice energy to the proceedings in this. You also have Dominic Purcell from Prison Break, and he was that terrible Dracula and that terrible Blade Trinity. He plays the mentally challenged guy who's going to lead to the finale of the film. You have the Walter Goggins is in it for briefly. Pretty much anywhere you look, he plays almost the same type of character. He was the redneck convict in Predators. Here, he's the brother of the mentally challenged guy. Somewhere the movie goes where they've moved back while Alexander Skarsgård and his buddies are trying to fix the roof. And it's supposed to be this slow build-up of tension where James Marsden, he's a city guy. He doesn't want violence. He tries to brush things off, deal with the locals. They mess with him. They're not doing their job. They go in and just take his beer. They do all these things bit by bit. They find a cat, but then the cat gets found hung in the closet. A lot of the stuff is what you saw in the original. Ultimately, at one point, while one is taken hunting, the lady is assaulted. Now, it felt more disturbing in the original compared to this. So some may say it was a little bit more Hollywoodized, or however you want to put it. It doesn't feel as disturbing, doesn't feel as harsh compared to the original. And then one thing leads to another. Dominic Purcell, we know what he did, but people don't know on either side. I know I'm going off tangent. What the fuck are you talking about, Matt? James Woods has a daughter. He warned the daughter, stay away from this guy. Spoiler alert, super spoilers, those who haven't seen it. She goes to him. He kills her because he's mentally challenged in this case. Not to say all mentally challenged do it, but the way they wrote it, I mean, it's harkened back to the original. He holds the girl too harsh and she dies, and James Marsden and the wife are driving. They hit him with a car. They don't know what happened, why he's out there. They bring him back to their house. James Woods is looking for his daughter, thinks Dominic Purcell did it, even though he's right. But they don't know for sure, but they assume it. They go to James Marsden's place. He's like, I'm not giving him up to you because we don't know what happened. I mean, we the audience know, but they don't know. And then you get the whole finale where James Marsden is going to take care of business, and I will not allow violence to come to this house. Although I don't know if that line is in this movie. I know it's in the original. If it was in this movie, I missed it. It's one of those. I'm having such a hard time talking about the movie because it's such a, to me, a by the numbers rudimentary movie. It was nothing that made me that bad or angry, but it was kind of dull, kind of boring, and if I put rant in the title, you'd probably be expecting a lot of rage and energy, and I don't really have it in for this. It's just more of a very meh, forgettable. I don't really have issues with the acting. I mean, James Marsden is no Dustin Hoffman in terms of acting, but he's serviceable. I don't mind him in films like the Sonic the Hedgehog films and other stuff. He's fine. Kate Bosworth, I didn't mind either. James Woods, like I said, he's always a plus when you got him in there. Alexander Starr, like I said, the acting I have really no issues with. The direction by Rod Leary, I don't think it was that intense or that. I thought the pacing could have been really amped up a bit. And this is a guy that did The Contender with Joan Allen. He did, what was it? The Last Castle with Robert Redford. So I don't know if he's the guy really capable for these type of thriller, going to the horror, home invasion. I just don't know if he was the best fit for this type of material. You just don't feel, it's not that intense. It's not that visceral. It's not, there's a little bit of blood, but it's not as gory, as violent as you think. And it just comes off as wheat sauce. And it's an hour and 49 minutes, so it feels fairly long. It feels like 3 hours instead of an hour and 49 minutes. And it's just one of those things where nothing really phenomenal takes place. The music is very forgettable. The characters are pretty forgettable. Sometimes, like the original, there's decisions that you're like, why did they do this? And, why is James Marsden so gung-ho to stay? And why doesn't Kate Bosworth tell her husband that she was assaulted? And then she blames him because you're a coward, because he didn't bring up this cat that was hung in the closet. And I'm like, well, you both screw-ups. You feel that way with the original, too. You both are screw-ups. I mean, if I see a cat hung in my closet, I'd be moving. Sorry, sayonara, pal. But no, James Marsden decides not to move, decides to stay, decides not to say anything to anybody. So I get Kate Bosworth's frustrations, but then when she's assaulted, she doesn't tell her husband, yeah, these guys did this to me. And even by the end of the film, he still doesn't know that really happened. So that's something left up in the air. And that's the thing, if you don't remake it, if there's any issues you have with the original, you could amplify that, you could rectify that, you could fix that with the... But instead, this comes off as almost a copy of the original. To the point you go, why was this made in the first place? And also, there's been so many home invasion films since the original. There's been so many movies with that motif of the guy or person who's a pacifist or is not a violent guy, and then throughout the course of the film he becomes more violent, more of a man, however you want to put it. And I'm like, if I want to see that, I'll just go watch the Hills of Eyes remake. Which, that third act with Aaron Stanford as Dud, trying to find his baby, just the acts and the way the music by Tom and Dandy ratchets up, and the hardcore visual violence, and the way Alexander Aja, he was the right director for that kind of movie. Hills of Ice remake is a better Straw Dogs remake than this movie, in my opinion. I mean, you even got the point where Aaron Stanford's got the broken glasses like Straw Dogs, and he's looking at his chopped up finger, but he sees the wedding ring, and I get more emotionally invested, fulfilled, satisfied, and feel something more in the Hills of Eyes remake. Which to me, yes, a chunk of that feels like the original, but when the third act, it really became its own thing. Maybe this film, if it did that, it could have really surpassed it. What made the original stand out for me was Dustin Hoffman's performance. Here, when you don't even have that, it just becomes rudimentary. It becomes by the numbers. Like I said, how many home invasion films have we seen where people come out of the woodwork? Or how many times have we seen Class of 1984 where Perry Lane, directed by Mark L. Lester, who did Commando, who did Showdown Little Tokyo, he did a film called Class of 1984 where you have a teacher who is simple, straightforward, means no harm, and he's pushed to his limits by the end. He's pushed to his limits to do violence against these gang member students who are crazy, who get some people killed or hurt his woman, and he's got to do some payback. So it's like, you could go watch Class of 84, you could watch various other movies. I mean, this, at best, you'd be like, eh. But then you're sitting there going, well, there's plenty of other movies I could rewatch instead of this. It's just one of those things that it doesn't really do anything that unique. Can't say original because it's a remake, no shit, but it just, you watch and you just wait. You, as someone put it best, in 5 minutes you know where the story's. Obviously, if you've seen the original, you know where the story's going, and you're hoping, okay, with a remake, give me something that gives a good reason as to why this was made. Back in the day with the remakes of The Fly, The Thing, The Blob in the 80s, it made sense because the effects and the technology of the 50s are a total 180 difference from the technology and effects of the 80s. It made sense why you try to update them. This, really nothing in it made it other than if you want to make fun of the South. And they play up like every Southern redneck trope and stereotype. Spoiler alert, they didn't. From the black sheriff that they, of course, shoot and kill, to the holding a Confederate flag during a football game, how much they love their football, how much they love their church, how much they love their religion, the accents. I mean, the guy who steals the beer from Jason Marsden, James, there's two different people, James Marsden, not Jason Marsden, James Marsden's fridge, he's pot-bellied, he's thicker than fat thick, he's got 3, 4, 5 beers, talking like this. How's it doing, pal? I'm gonna go find a cousin to fuck. It just, that's why I appreciate films like Tucker and Dale versus Evil that turned it on its head and was made it feel unique and fresh. It's just, and even that, there's a shitload of movies about Southern assholes. I remember when I was doing the commentary, I thought, you know what would be an interesting twist on this take? Have it be a Southern guy like Billy Bob Thornton with his lady. They go up to the north, and, you know, people assume that this guy's a redneck, he's a hit, he's unintelligent, he's this and that. But he's all that, and he's a pacifist, and that, I think Billy Bob Thornton's a good actor. He could really showcase those moments of being warm and generous and easygoing. And then when the shit hits the fan, you do a little Straw Dogs. He could really turn that intensity up a few notches. And that would be really interesting. That would be really nice twist on it. But no. Nah, not that. Or hell, even the Jason... Why do I keep saying Jason? James Marsden's character is a screenwriter. Have it be in the plot where he's a horror film writer, but he doesn't like horror, he doesn't like gore, it makes him sick, the sight of blood makes him sick, but he's creative with ideas. So we get to the third act, he thinks of these ideas for these Home Alone, not, doesn't have to be Home Alone type of truck, but this stuff to help him survive. Like, maybe that could be interesting. No. It's just one of those things where, that'd be a nice taste where people always say that horror films hurt people. Well, in this case, a horror film helps someone survive. That'd be an interesting take, but no. It just, the acting's not bad. I don't think the acting's bad at all. It just, you watch it and you know, and it's too long, it's too slow, it's too dull. Spoiler for the finale. Last time I'll say spoilers, I promise. Diamond Purcell is led by James Wood's daughter. He doesn't know how to deal with it, so ultimately holding her like this. She stops ticking, is dead. Again, they accidentally hit him with a car. Marsden and T. Bosworth take him to their place. His daughter's missing. They don't know what happened to her. They go to the house. They kill the sheriff, and then they try to break in. And James Marsden either gets some nail gun, nails the guy's hands to it, as throws really close to the broken glass. He throws boiling water into James Woods' face. The bad guys crash the truck in. Marsden hits the shotgun and makes James Woods blow off his own foot. Gets the shotgun, shoots him. The big guy, was you thinking there's going to be some big fight? No, there's no big fight, no big struggle. Very quickly, Marsden just gets the fire poker, and you just see this. You don't see any of the aftermath. You just see him doing this, swinging like 8 times. Gets upstairs, just Tate is streaming. Alexander Skarsgård and the other guy are there. The lady gets the gun, shoots the one guy. Marsden fights Alexander Skarsgård. I will say in the finale, in the original, they try to make Susan George. Yeah, I think that's her name. I'm bad with names. If I got the name completely wrong, I apologize. But they try to make her as if, is she with the bad guys? Is she with the Dustin Hoffman? Like, you don't quite know where her... And that kind of makes it more fucked up and more... Makes her more unlikable to me, but makes her more fucked up. Here... You get that she's a little bit more... You get a little bit less of that. It's not 100% gone, but a little bit less of that. And then Marsden takes the bear trap and hits it on the guy's head. It stabs right into the guy's neck. I mean, yeah, it's violent, but it's not as visceral. I remember when it popped out of nowhere, I laughed. Because the guy's talking, and all of a sudden this bear trap... I did that. I know that wasn't the intention. And then Marsden walks out to his burning car and his his burning barn and fucked up car and watches. And you just say there's unanswered questions of finding out that Diamond Purcell did do this. And will they ever find out that his woman was assaulted? Of course, will they get divorced? I'm still trying to find out why Marsden was so pissed off at T. Bosworth's character. Because T. Bosworth thought Marsden was a coward, but why was Marsden so mad and angry at T. Bosworth's character? Or maybe he wasn't pissed off, he was just sort of out of it. I don't know. Some people say there's unanswered questions, but I guess you could say that for the original as well. And like the original Straw Dogs isn't even a favorite of mine. I'm not even going to say Straw Dogs I love to death and it's one of my favorite Sam Peckinpah. It's not one of my favorite Dustin Hoffman films. I prefer all the President's Men and Rain Man and other films. But like I said, of the few things going for it was Dustin Hoffman's performance. Here, the acting is fine and serviceable. It's just everything else. This is a remake that wasn't needed. It was a remake that really didn't add anything to it. It didn't add any merit for his existence. And that's the thing, you watch it, and if you never saw the original, you don't, okay, it's there. It's, like I said, dull, too long, just like this review. And it was hard to even, like, what the hell do I even talk about? So it's not a rant, because I don't think it's one of the worst remakes or one of the worst movies ever. It's just very... Been there, done that. You've seen it multiple times before. And like I say, if I want to watch something like that, I'll watch the Hills of Eyes remake. Or Class of 1984, or various other movies that I mentioned. So that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you guys later. Bye-bye.